everyone, and welcome to another episode of the B&E podcast. As always, I'm Bryce Gelman, and I'm joined by my co-host, Evan Kamiko. Evan, you've got some big news you want to tell us.
I have really big news. One, I'm not in my normal location. I'm in sunny, Florida. Change of scenery for the show. Probably permanent for a while. But the second big news is what I wanted to share with everybody. Recently, I was named host and head producer of one of the IUS TV Indiana University student television show, The Toss-Up. I'm really excited for that. That starts February, so I'll have all the action for The Toss-Up coming to you guys February as the host of the new show. Really excited for that. Thank you. This is, I guess, the official announcement because I haven't done anything yet. My parents were the only one that knew. I got the text. I found out about almost 2 weeks ago. So I will be hosting the Toss-Up every week starting in February, which I'm really excited about that. Follow it on Instagram. That will be soon to be made. I will make that announcement next time we do the podcast. So
I expect you to plug this podcast.
This podcast will be plugged in the show somewhere. I will figure it out. I'm really excited for that. But let's get into some sports and stuff that we talk about. Bryce, let's start off with the Knicks. Recently, a week and a half ago, they drafted Obi Toppin at 8th overall, correct? Get me if I'm wrong, at 8th overall. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the pick? Let's analyze that.
Well, yeah, we wanted to do a show about this. So, a week earlier, we had some stuff going on. We both have left school in that time. So we decided, it's better late than never. But a lot of time has passed for me since the Knicks made this pick. And I think over time, it's kind of grown on me. At first, I wasn't, not happy. Let's get that straight. I was unhappy with, the Knicks pick in 2015 with Porzingis. This is a completely different story. I think that this guy's been proven. He's 22 years old. He's one of the most NBA ready guys in the draft. And we stabbed him at 8. We got lucky. He fell exactly into our hands. And listen, if there was anything to celebrate about this offseason, it's definitely that. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we didn't have to trade up for him, because I think every single news report, there was one constant, every single Knicks draft news report leading up to the draft. And that was that we were very high on Obi Toppin. Leon Rose really, really liked him, liked his game, thought he'd fit in well with Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett. And he fell exactly into our arms. So there is a positive there. Obviously, this offseason didn't go as planned with free agents. We didn't really get anyone we wanted. We didn't get Fred VanVleet. I think the highest profile free agent we've gotten is Austin Rivers, which is, I think there's a lot. I also still think there's a lot more time in this offseason. We still need to trade Julius Randle. Julius Randle's got to go. Taking Obi Toppin basically said to Julius Randle, you get the F off. Yeah. So we need to get rid of him. There's still a lot more moves. We're, I think, 1 or 2 roster spots over. We also signed Miles Powell, who's probably going to go to the G League. I think that he could grow into a Fred VanVleet type of player. I was very excited when we signed him. One of the best guards in college basketball last year for Seton Hall. Yeah. And staying in the area, I'm very happy for that. A lot of the people I know really like
hometown kid.
Mr. Hoyle really liked that signing too. I saw on Twitter.
Good friend of the show.
Good friend of the show. Yes. So I'm not disappointed with this offseason. I'm very happy with what ended up happening. Yeah. This is something that we need to build from scratch. We need to build a program that is appealing to free agents. You can't expect us to go out and sign free agents without a solidified culture. We do not have a culture yet. Tom Thibodeau has not coached a game for the Knicks yet. We haven't played in almost 9 months. We need to prove ourselves as a competent organization, and it starts from here. It starts building up to the next year's free agency, the free agency after that. And quite frankly, we shouldn't expect to be good until 2023, maybe 2022 if we're lucky. I don't expect to be in college by the time the Knicks are good, which sucks. Yeah. It definitely sucks because I won't be able to enjoy at least them being good in college, whatever it is, what it is. The Knicks were at their best when my dad got out of college. So I just want to point that out too. But there's a lot to look forward to as a Knicks fan. There's a lot to take away, and we got our guy. And then we got quickly late in the first round. We flipped some picks. We ended up getting, we had the 8th, the 27th and the 35th pick. And we turned that into the 23rd and just the 23rd. And then we turned the 23rd into the 25th and the 33rd. So great moves there from Leon Rose and company. Yeah. We obviously were showing again, like I said, we were showing that we know what we were doing, which is the first time I could actually say that for this team. So again, trust the process. I don't mean to sound corny, but seriously, trust this process. Trust that Leon Rose and all those guys in the front office, Scott Perry, they know exactly what they're doing. And we're only going to see that more and more as these seasons go on. I think they are the right the right front office for this team. As long as Dolan stays out of the operations, I think that this can go really well. So a lot to take away from the Knicks offseason, but those are just my thoughts. Hopefully we get a good pick. I really, really like Cade Cunningham. Please, if you're a basketball fan, look at the Cade Cunningham. This kid's going to go number 1. He's the real deal. He's the real deal. So listen, we didn't get our guard. Hopefully we could draft one next year or get a free agent. We'll see. It is what it is. We're the Knicks. We're probably going to lose 50 games in a 71-game season anyway. So it is what it is.
Hey, at least there's a future now for the Knicks, and it looks bright. With RJ and now Obi Toppin coming in. I like the Obi Toppin pick. I was very surprised that no team higher picked him, but after, doing research after the draft and looking into it, his age was a big thing because there's only so much further that he can go being 22 years old, being NBA ready now versus, taking a project like the Bulls did. The Bulls took Patrick Williams at 4. I texted my friend who's a Bulls fan. I said, who the fuck is this kid? I'll just plainly say it. Excuse my language. But I was like, who is he? Had no idea. But looking at his upside, and he was the ACC Sixth Man of the Year, which was even more confusing to me why we would not take like ACC Player of the Year versus the Sixth Man of the Year. But looking more into him, there was a lot of growing momentum that other teams were trying to trade up. Apparently, the Pistons called the Hornets and said, hey, we want to trade up to 3 because they were targeting Patrick Williams, which would have worked very well for the Bulls because they would have, LaMelo Ball would have dropped to the Bulls, and I would have loved to got LaMelo Ball at number 4. I think that would have been very good for us. But, reading into him, he's a freak athlete. People are saying that if he develops correctly and the Bulls developed him correctly, he could turn into a Kawhi-like player. I have seen that. I know it sounds crazy, but I have seen that. Look, I don't believe it for a second. Like, Kawhi is another level talent. But, they're saying he has that athleticism that Kawhi possesses. And the future is hopefully bright for this kid. Would I have liked to see us get someone more NBA ready? Yes. But at the end of the day, you still have a lineup of Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr. Now you add him into the mix. That's a pretty good lineup in the next couple of years. And I like, Arturas, the new GM of the Bulls. I don't even know how to Karnisova. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. GM Mark Eversley, came in, changing the culture. It's the same thing. I don't expect the Bulls to be good for the next. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
Does not seem like your dogs are a fan of the Patrick.
The dogs are not a fan, but I don't see the Bulls making the playoffs this year or next year. The Bulls and the Knicks are kind of on the same pace with each other, rebuilding. Bringing in new culture. Yeah, you can tell me that.
Okay, yeah, okay. I do disagree with that sentiment. I think that the Bulls are much more talented because they have an all-star on their team. They have Zach LaVine.
Zach LaVine is not an all-star, though. Yes,
I'm not,
he puts up
he's
all-star
an all-star
numbers,
caliber player.
Yes,
he's an all-star caliber player.
I agree with that.
He's better than any player on our team. That's all I'm saying. He's an all-star caliber player.
But where we lack too is in our front office and coaching staff. The Bulls haven't had a good coach since Tom Thibodeau. Now you have Tom Thibodeau. We went through Fred Hoiberg, horrid coach, and then Jim Boylan could have been even worse. Yeah, I mean, Hoiberg and Boylan are the reason Jimmy Butler left Chicago. Absolutely the reason why Jimmy Butler left Chicago. And that set our whole team back years because Jimmy Butler was a budding star when come 2015, 2016, when it was his team and it wasn't Derrick Rose's team anymore. Yeah. He was a budding star. Now he's flourished in Miami. He'll sign a Supermax deal in the next 2 years there. I'm 100% certain of it. But, if you look at the Bulls coaching and staff and culture wise, it's very similar to the Knicks, which has been toxic for years.
Yeah, you guys had that period of greatness, early 2010s to 2015. And you guys also happen to be the second biggest market, obviously besides Brooklyn. Who cares about them? You guys are the second biggest market in the NBA besides the LA teams because, I'm just saying, in hindsight, it's us than you guys. You're in Chicago. You guys have the same amount of fans wise, your fans have the same amount of expectations that for their team as we do. Mm-hmm. So you understand our struggle.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you guys got your guy. You guys stood strong at 4 and took Patrick Williams, I knew that if you guys didn't take Denny, if you guys either went Toppin or Denny, then I don't think Toppin falls to 8. I honestly thought it was going to be either us.
If we take Toppin at 4, he doesn't fall anywhere past 4.
Well, obviously, but I was concerned that you guys were going to take him, if not Denny. I was very upset that we didn't take Denny, but obviously something was uncovered by these teams, or these teams were a little concerned about it. 6'9" point forward. Like this guy's got a good future, but you guys took Patrick Williams. You guys got your guy. You really wanted him. And then that had a lot of implications for the rest of the draft, because the fact that you guys didn't take Toppin and you took Patrick Williams meant Killian Hayes was going to go 7 to the Pistons, because the Pistons were either going to take him or Patrick Williams. So once Patrick Williams is off the board, I'm like, okay, we're not getting Killian. Let's see if Obi falls to us. And he did, thankfully. But there were a lot of implications for this draft.
Absolutely.
One thing went wrong and everything else led to another thing. So at the end of the day, it's a good draft for, I feel like, both of our teams. The Bulls have a bright future. I think they have a brighter future than the Knicks. Let's see.
I think in the short term, yes, but in 2 years, yes, the Bulls could be better, are probably going to be playoff caliber. But the Knicks really aren't far behind as talent-wise comes, because you guys are really another lottery pick or 2 away from being where we are now in a free agent signing away. But if you look at front office and culture-wise, we're very similar spots. Both of the teams are looking to turn around their cultures.
Well, yeah, speaking of another team trying still to turn around their culture, let's talk about some teams that were winners and losers. I think the biggest winner of this draft was the Sacramento Kings, having Tyrese Halliburton drop to them at 12. He was projected anywhere from 4 to being taken by you guys at 4, 5, 6, definitely was a player at 7, even with the Knicks at 8. If Toppin and Killian Hayes were off the board at 8, I think we go Halliburton. And then the teams after that, Denny Avdija went 9. So he fell right into the Kings' lap. Now they have him and De'Aaron Fox, 2 really good guards. Let's see what they could do there. I really like what they did there.
I would say one of the losers for me is going to be the Phoenix Suns. I didn't love the Jalen Smith pick that early. I think they could have gotten Halliburton at 11 and have him develop under Chris Paul for a year or 2 and then take over, because they already have a really good big man in DeAndre Ayton. So yes, I get it. Taking Jalen Smith, that puts you as, you're kind of, Twin Towers reference, 2 huge guys to set up, in the front court or the back court. I don't know my basketball terms very well. The front court, and then, your back court, you have Devin Booker and Chris Paul, which is, a phenomenal front court or back court.
The best backcourt in the league, probably.
But I think, I will say they're a loser, because you had Halliburton there. He could have, I agree. Him and Devin Booker could have been a really good duo with Ayton still, and then you could have gotten, a big guy next year or the year after. So definitely, I think they rushed a little bit into a big guy, but I do like Jalen Smith. He has a lot of potential. He's a lot of talent. He's a Maryland guy. Personally, I hate him after what he did at Indiana last year, but that's not why, they're the losers. They're a losing team for me from the draft. I just think, maybe that wasn't the right pick, especially with a 35, 36-year-old Chris Paul. But, it wasn't the best pick they could have done, but it wasn't a
listen, I see why they did. I see why they did it. Too. They need a power forward. They just lost Aaron Baines. They weren't going to re-sign him. So now they have, a void that needed to be filled at power forward. That's why they took Smith. So we're seeing that team is more willing to plug holes and fill their needs than just drafting the best available player, which they obviously could have done in Halliburton.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with plugging holes. It's just, Chris Paul's 35, 36. He maybe doesn't give you another good season like he did in OKC last year.
He will. To be fair, he is still got a lot of game. He moves better than a lot of point guards.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. But he can only give you 1 or 2 more good years. Halliburton could give you 7 to 8. 3 more years? Okay,
Chris Paul
versus a guy who could be potentially 10 to 15 years. Or he could not even make the league. We don't know. That's the thing with the draft. Any of these guys could be busts.
I mean, Halliburton will play for the Kings. I guarantee you that. I agree. Listen, I agree that they made the wrong decision. I think going Halliburton would have been a much better decision. But these teams that go with their gut and take the guy that they wanted in the first place are the teams that probably will do better in the future with these guys.
Absolutely.
They've been studying them for months. They knew that those guys were the best fit for their team. instead of taking the best available guy, which obviously a lot of these teams could have done, but they didn't. A lot of the teams stuck with who they originally wanted, which was surprising this year.
Yeah.
Which usually teams will just draft the best player available. We drafted the best player available. He just happened to be the guy that we wanted. Yeah. The NBA draft, very weird this year with Adam Silver announcing the picks without fans. We couldn't hear the Knicks fans boo, our pick. I think
I don't think they would have booed this year, honestly.
No, I don't think either. But it was just definitely weird without fans. But that's gonna do it for our draft coverage. Let's talk about the Lakers. Are they the perennial favorites?
Absolutely.
This year? We're back. Let's talk about the Lakers.
After a little technical or personal difficulties, let's talk about the Lakers.
Difficulties.
The Lakers are an interesting team to me. I think that they've only gotten better. Age isn't a factor at this point after, what they did last season. It'll be interesting to see if LeBron can carry it. It's not 82 games, it's 72 now. It'll be interesting, 72, 71, whatever the number is. So it'll be really interesting to see how the Lakers can defend their title. I don't think there's a question. I'd already put money on the Lakers if I were a betting person.
Yeah, they are
not much
far and away.
To talk about, when you add the 6 man in a year to your starting lineup, come on.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question
anymore.
There's no question. There's no question. The Lakers are the best team in the league. I disagree. The NBA is not fun anymore. We had to go through 4 years of the Warriors being far and away the superior team in the NBA, and that was way worse. When they signed DeMarcus Cousins, that was the one feeling I've had. Besides KD going there, that this season was completely going to be over in the Warriors' favor, which ended up happening almost every year besides 2016 when LeBron won. But that's a completely different situation. Montrezl Harrell, 6th man of the year, very, very solid player. Is he Kevin Durant? No. You do have an aging LeBron James. He could have a bad season. This is, it's very not out of the question. It's not out of the question. He was drafted in 2003. I was 2 years old when LeBron was drafted. That's how long he's been in the league. So that's always a question. Anthony Davis, top 5 player in the league. No problems from him. But yes, adding a guy that is seen by many as one of the 2 or 3 best free agents in this class. Now we're looking at a team that hasn't lost anyone and just gained one of the best free agents on the market. Yes, they're by far the favorites, but I do think the NBA will still be fun this year. They're the most competent league in all of sports. I don't even think it's close. The fact that they came out with a plan before hockey, they came out with a plan. I mean, before every other sports team, sports team, they knew exactly what they were going to do.
And
baseball sucks, dude. Rob Manfred, we could talk days and days about how he is the most incompetent commissioner. He's way more incompetent than Goodell. He's so out of touch. He has no idea what's going on in his head. Rob Manfred needs to get fired by the owners. He should not be the commissioner of baseball. We could talk about this again, like I said, for hours and hours and hours. He sucks. But the NBA, Adam Silver, any organization or league would be completely benefited by his addition to that league. So if he bought the Knicks, if he decided he goes, I'm done with the NBA, I'm out. He's making like $20 million a year. I'm going to put together a bunch of investors and buy the Knicks. The Knicks would win a championship in 2 to 3 years. He's that good. So he knows way better than any commissioner or any league executive what the public perception is. He knows exactly what every move is going to come as. So there's obviously a disconnect for a lot of other organizations and a lot of leagues. Yeah. He does not have that at all. So I know we just got a little, out of context there, but he is the best commissioner in all of sports. We were going to talk about this, but Adam Silver, his plan and his ability to communicate with the NBA Players Association is second to none. He has a problem with the amount of power that the players hold in this league, how much power Rich Paul has as the owner of Clutch Sports. They're going to have to figure this out in the next collective bargaining agreement. But with Adam Silver leading these talks, it should not be hard for the owners to get what they want when he's leading the discourse. So I think the NBA is still, going off what you said, the NBA is still fun, and he knows what he's doing. The NBA is in good hands with him as
commissioner. Absolutely. And it's one of the things that we look at, the NBA had a plan. They were able to execute their plan much better than baseball was, building a bubble. Yeah, it's hard to put 32 teams in a bubble, but at the end of the day, there should have been no reason why baseball couldn't have come back mid-June and why they had to, even July 1, There was no reason why they didn't, and they failed to do that. The NBA came back. Yeah, they came back later because they had to figure out the bubble and how they were going to do that. But they got it only a week later too. But they got it done and they executed to pretty much perfection, in my opinion. And that's probably why that is why the NBA is probably the best run, professional sports league. Because right now you have the NFL who cannot get COVID under control.
Yeah. We'll get into the NFL's problems later, but let's first start with the NFL right now. Let's talk about the NFC East.
We'll get into the COVID related issues later, but now let's NFC East.
Let's talk about the virus that is the NFC East.
It's just a shit.
The virus that is the NFC East.
I would ask you a question. So
go ahead.
While we're in the NFC East, would you rather have the Giants have a top 10 pick at potentially 5-11, 4-12, whatever the record ends up being, or would you rather them make the playoffs?
Yeah, so I've been talking about this with my friends who are fellow Giants fans for the past couple of weeks, and I think after we've won our last 2 games, it's become not obvious, but very increasingly likely that we will end up winning the division. So it begs the question, what you just asked. My opinion is that I would obviously love to make the playoffs at 6-10 or 5-11, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the value that a top 10 pick brings in the NFL with almost being a surefire starter in this league, it's different in every other sport. It's different in the NBA where, if you're, I mean, it's only 1
in the NBA, you're looking at more towards the future because players can last longer. In the NFL, you're looking at who can help me right now.
Yeah. I mean, yes. NBA also is less, you're never sure with a pick unless it's like Zion or a guy like LeBron. So,
and those players come around once every 10 to 15 years.
Exactly. Whereas in the NFL, almost all the top 5 picks are going to be stars at least. There's obviously bust. There's always bust. Everyone knows this. But obviously, like I said, I'd be very happy with the top 10 pick. I think Washington on Thursday night, Thanksgiving night, showed us their abilities and that they have one of the best defenses in the league. I think Washington runs away with the division, so I'm not as concerned. I'm very happy with how well our team is being coached right now by Joe Judge. But the guys that he was given to succeed in this league were not good enough. So I think that if we don't make the playoffs and we end up winning only 1 more game the rest of the season or 2 more games and we still don't win, I think that is much easier on the Maras and the Tisches to fire Dave Gettleman because he needs to go. And at the end of the day, I'm looking towards the future with this team. I'm looking for a guy that can lead this team in the front office and make competent moves and have an actual plan to win. And we've seen over the past 5 years that Dave Gettleman has absolutely no plan for success in New York. So let's get rid of Dave Gettleman. If we have to lose a bunch more games and get a higher pick so we can fire him and bring in a guy who can actually draft these guys, then I think we're in a much better place and much better situation. So I am definitely for not winning the division. If we do and we end up mid-first round, we're obviously going to lose in the wild card. But if we end up mid-first round, still got to make a good pick. You still have to trust your gut. And we screwed up last draft. We could have drafted Mekhi Becton, who's on the Jets. He's going to be a superstar. He will be. I promise you that. Andrew Thomas was not the right pick. I was very upset about that. He seemed to be a guy that was the most NFL ready, but I think Becton has shown with one of the best, he's one of the best linemen in the AFC right now. So we screwed up with that.
Having around him, obviously, the worst supporting crew as well.
He's doing the best job among 4 of the other most incompetent offensive linemen in the league. So he's holding his own. Yeah. I mean, like, and the Jets, he dropped the Jets. I think the Jets dropped.
I think they drafted him
11. Yeah, I was gonna say 11. So we had the 4th pick, and we took Andrew Thomas, and we lost to Washington. We beat Washington in the last game of the season to lose out on Chase Young.
Rough.
It's the most New York thing to screw yourself in the last few games to get a worse draft pick. I just did not understand at the time. You lose the game, end up with the best defensive player in the draft. Instead, you fell to 4 and drafted a guy who can't play the offensive line. That's the New York Giants. That's David Gettleman for you. The only good thing that came from that offseason last year is two good things. One, hiring Joe Judge, and the fact that Xavier McKinney, who has to prove himself tomorrow, this is being filmed on Saturday. This will be released on Sunday. Hopefully by the time that this is out, Xavier McKinney has shown you why he was the steal of the draft in the second round. But he was obviously the pick. I think I could have drafted him as the fucking GM. As the GM, I take him right there. So Joe Judge, great coach. He's the coach of the future for the Giants. I'm very satisfied that we got that need out of the way. He should not be fired in the near future, but Dave Gettleman has got to go. That's just my thing. Please, Washington win the division so we can get rid of Dave Gettleman faster. Another question. Let's talk about. I can't talk about the Giants.
And that has been Confessions as a Giants fan, brought to you by the B&E podcast.
There aren't that many. The last thing I'll say is there aren't that many reasons for Giants fans to be mad right now. But I'm pissed because no one talks about the fact that Dave Gettleman is. I mean, everyone talks about it. Giants fans all know how bad Dave Gettleman is, but it's not talked about. It's not talked about enough in the media. Just how detrimental he's been with his draft picks to this team. Drafting Daniel Jones at 8 could be one of the worst draft picks in the history of the NFL. I loved it. I mean, Daniel Jones is the best quarterback in the division right now. He's the best quarterback in the division, but that's not saying
absolutely
much. We
But look at his competition: Alex Smith, Andy Dalton, and Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't even put Carson Wentz.
Carson. I mean, no, he is the.
I mean, you have to put him into discussion. I get it, but
trash.
That's why taking a before we get into, we'll talk about the Steelers in a second being 10-0, but that's why taking a quarterback from a school like North Dakota State University is very, very tricky, and that's why Trey Lance will drop out of the first round. That is my hot take of the day.
Hopefully we take him. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to the 10-0 Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not going to play this game this week, but let's not talk about that yet. Do you think that they're the best team in the league at 10-0?
No shot. I think they have one of the best defense. I think you can't sleep on the Chiefs being 9-1. And quite frankly, I think if they get a rematch against Tennessee, I think Tennessee beats them. I disagree. I don't think the Steelers are the best team. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. They've always have been. Other teams to look at that could contend or beat the Steelers, in my opinion. I think the Rams have a really good shot at beating the Steelers. And I also think the Buccaneers can beat them too if their offense is on and they are executing to perfection in that day. But that is a topic I want to get to in a minute or two. Bryce, what do you think about that?
I'll say something quick and then we'll move on to your Bears. But I think that the Steelers, on paper, yes, are the best team in the league. They're 10-0. They have the best defense, one of the best defenses. And Big Ben is getting everyone in that offense involved at all times. People underestimate his abilities all the time. And he's one of the best quarterbacks statistically in the AFC right now. I do think that a team like the Chiefs could beat them. I think the Titans are a good team. I don't know. It's very hard to tell right now. There's still a bunch more weeks left. Can you imagine if they go 16-0 though? I mean, I don't see that happening, but we still have a bunch more time left in the NFL. I don't know if the season's even going to be finished at this point, but if it is, I do see them as one of the teams that makes it to the AFC Championship game. I think no doubt. Let's talk about the Bears. Let's discuss the fact that you guys,
Mitch is coming back though.
I don't know why
Mitchell Trubisky is coming back because Mitchell Trubisky brings another dynamics to the Chicago Bears. He brings the fact that a quarterback can move out of the pocket. Matt Nagy is a play caller who does not fit a pocket passer to his system. So the fact that Nick Foles was starting, and Nick Foles got lucky a couple times. He got lucky against the Falcons, the fact that they couldn't hold the lead. He got lucky against the Buccaneers and the fact that Tom Brady didn't know it was fourth down. And he got lucky against the Panthers. That's all I'm going to say. We also, granted the Bears do not have an offensive line. So you have to take that in consideration. The Bears' offensive line is
David Montgomery is getting destroyed every week. He got a concussion.
He got a concussion because we don't have an offensive line. So do I think the Bears? I don't think the Bears are going to win tomorrow night. Let's be real. I'm very happy Mitch is back. I like Mitch better than Foles. I think he brings mobility and he brings more to the offense than Foles really can because Foles can't extend the play like Mitch can. But at the end of the day, I don't think you fire Pace or I don't think you fire Matt Nagy. And that's because without an offensive line, you can't have an offense. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't have an offense. They don't have an offensive line. They have a mediocre offense. Joe Burrow was playing phenomenal before he got hurt.
So sad.
Terribly sad. And quite frankly, now they're going to get a high draft pick. And we'll talk about this in a second. Let me finish with the Bears.
Offensive lineman.
Do you draft an offensive lineman or do you draft Trevor Lawrence? Or do you draft Trevor Lawrence? If you can get Trevor Lawrence.
Stop. There's one team that is getting Trevor Lawrence,
and that's the New York Jets.
The New York Jets.
But yes, they draft an offensive lineman. But if I'm the Bears, you're not bringing back Mitch next year. Otherwise, it's gonna be backup. That's simple. You don't get rid of Nagy and Pace. Either we draft an offensive lineman in first round. No. Or I
really you just said a non-pocket presence quarterback does not fit, or that's basically Matt Nagy's anti-quarterback, like a guy who sits in the pocket. Why wouldn't you want a guy who can run all over the field?
I want Sam Darnold. If I'm being honest,
I
trade for Sam Darnold. I trade for Sam Darnold and I draft an offensive lineman. Look, the Eagles are giving Jalen Hurts a chance next year.
You're playing Madden franchise right now. You're playing Madden franchise.
I don't even play video games. I don't have an Xbox in my house.
I'm just saying, in your head, you're playing those games.
In my head,
absolutely. I agree. No,
absolutely.
Great move. Great. I really support that. I think that they should trade for Sam Darnold now.
You trade for Sam Darnold. That gives you a young quarterback who is proven to have success in the NFL, and you draft an offensive lineman in round 1. Then you take in round 2 someone on the defense to fill a hole, and then in round 3 you take another offensive lineman. Then you take a wide receiver. Or you take a wide receiver in round 3 and then go lineman, because the Bears need linemen. Or you still trade for Sam Darnold. If you want, you could draft a quarterback, but you're probably not getting Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not sold on Trey Lance. And I like Kyle Trask, but I don't know. He's got to do a little bit more to convince me. And quite frankly, Mac Jones is an Alabama quarterback, and Alabama quarterbacks never have success in the NFL. So I trade for Sam Darnold if I'm the Bears. If I'm Ryan Pace, I trade for Sam Darnold. I can bring in Trubisky as the backup, or Trubisky's gone. I keep Foles. Foles can, teach Sam Darnold the system. Sam Darnold will be the future of Chicago quarterbacks. I draft offensive linemen, and I sign the best offensive lineman in free agency, and I sign Allen Robinson to a fucking contract extension. That's what I do if I'm the Chicago Bears. That is my offseason. If the Bears don't do that this offseason, I'm officially switching teams again.
Let's make sure every single person who, out of everyone who watched this, not many people
who are still on for this part.
Keep him accountable for exactly what he just said. All right. On that note, let's move on to the Ravens. I need to end it on you saying that so I can find it. Let's talk about the Ravens. Are they going to be the reason why this NFL season gets extended an extra week? Like, do you think that they're going to start? They might have to have a week 18. Otherwise, these two teams aren't going to play enough games. I do not think this game gets played on Tuesday. This game will not get played on Tuesday. But if this game gets played on Tuesday,
where have you read that? I haven't read that anyway.
It was switched to Tuesday. It was supposed to be played. It was supposed to be played.
The Tuesday thing, I read that. I know that's a thing, but with the fact that they won't have enough games at the end of the season, if there's 15 games, what are they going to do? 15 games, go straight to the playoffs. You don't extend it for one game. If the Steelers are 15-0 at the end of the season, they still get the number one overall, the number one seed, because they're still 15-0.
What if it's not? What if it's not? What if they're a game? What if they're a half a game ahead of a team? What if they're let's say 12-3? What if they're 12-3 and another team is at 12-4? And that other team happens to hold the tiebreaker over the Steelers.
Then they get the tiebreaker.
What's going to happen?
They get the tiebreaker.
You have to have a play. You have to have another game.
No, you have to have
another game.
Not necessarily.
If they're 12-3, they have a better record. They have a better record than 12-4 team. I understand this is a very specific scenario.
I would say the Steelers would go on top. You do not need another week. This is completely new realm. You cannot control any of this. You don't know if these teams are going to be healthy in January. You don't know what team's going to be healthy in January and what team's going to be on the COVID crisis.
That has nothing to do with it. That has nothing to do with it, though.
It kind of does. Because what happens if the team, if this Steelers-Ravens teams, more Steelers somehow end up testing positive that week 18, then you push back the season more.
Okay, but that's very. Also, by that time, I guarantee you, after all these cases and after week after week after week of getting screwed, the NFL will definitely be in a bubble somehow, somewhere. Don't know where.
For the
playoffs,
playoffs,
big enough to hold.
LA. They will be in a bubble at SoFi
Probably
Stadium,
at SoFi
Los
Stadium.
Angeles.
Probably at SoFi Stadium. Okay, let's talk about Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia just fired by the Lions.
Damn it. Not happy.
He was the worst coach in the NFL, I think, for the past 2 seasons. Matthew Stafford, get the hell out of there. Please get the hell out of there. He's a good quarterback. He makes some really good throws. I don't know if you saw that touchdown pass that he threw in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
He's a really good quarterback, and he gets a lot of slack, for being the quarterback in Detroit, which is the most incompetent organization in all of sports the past 20 years. They're worse than the Knicks because the Lions haven't made the playoffs. At least the Knicks made the playoffs in 2011, 2012.
Made the playoffs in 20.
When?
I think 2015. I'm telling you,
so.
The Lions made the playoffs. They were a wild card in, I think, 2015, or they lost the wild card spot in the last week. Not 100% sure about that, but I think they've made the playoffs in the last 5 to 7 years.
Their drought without a playoff victory now.
It's a playoff victory, not appearance.
Still.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Their drought without a playoff victory now stands at an even 10,000. This is a year and a half ago. 10,000 days, a year and a half ago. Since January 5th, 1992. It doesn't, it's crazy.
That's just sad.
It's crazy.
I think they're the only team in the last 20 plus years without a playoff win. I think. Don't quote me on that though. I have no idea. I think I'm just guessing.
They made the wild card in 2016. They lost.
Yeah, they made the wild card and they lost. I do remember that. I think Matt Patricia was a good idea to bring in a Bill Belichick disciple as a defensive minded coach, but that defense is trash. The defense is horrible, and a defensive minded coach didn't have a good offensive coordinator to hire, so he didn't hire an offensive coordinator and. Yeah, and they're just the Lions. I think they bring in Jack Del Rio from Washington now. I think he will get that head coaching job. That's going to be my guess because of how good Washington's defense is. Or maybe Washington's defense is just really good because they have Chase Young and they have one of the best, defensive lines and front sevens in the NFL. That's really up for debate. But another good defense that's really surprising to me at this point in the season is the Las Vegas Raiders. And that's a team that doesn't get enough credit for what they do. So I want to give them credit really quick. I think that they're a good, John.
Congratulations to the Raiders.
Congrats to the Raiders. Also, another congratulations. Evans, yeah, my congratulations of the day. Nah, we'll skip that. Let's go into our next topic. Screw it. Finally, let's talk college football really quick. Top 4 in the college football playoffs: Alabama and Notre Dame, Clemson, and Ohio State. Now, the interesting about this is Ohio State is missing one game away from not being able to make the college football playoff at all. Northwestern, as we speak, this game is not final, but I believe they are losing right now.
They're still down 17-6 at halftime. I just looked it up.
It is still halftime of that game. That's really surprising.
I know. It does not make sense.
What? Oh, yeah. Halftime
still is somehow.
Injury? Weather delay?
Does say.
Oh, nope. It's 13-17. Michigan State's still.
Where do you get this? How is this giving me this result? ESPN, come on. Figure it out. Figure it out, Google.
I don't know.
Figure it the fuck out, Google.
But one of the things to really keep an eye on there is there's going to be 3 games that are going to tell you who's going to make it: the ACC championship, the SEC championship, and if Ohio State can play enough games. That's the 3 things that are going to tell you, because look, whoever wins the SEC, if it's Alabama or Florida, they're going to get in. Whoever loses it, if it's Alabama, they'll still possibly get in at 4. If Notre Dame wins the SEC at the ACC,
Notre Dame's a lock.
Notre Dame's in.
I
wouldn't say th're a lock
already.
Wouldn't say they're a lock to be in.
Come on,
but if they
continue the way they're playing right now,
they'll win the SEC. They'll beat Clemson again. Absolutely. If Clemson loses again, they're gone. Ohio State, if they get enough games, they're in. But it's so weird right now. I can't guess and really give a good analysis about how this is going to end up, because I don't know COVID numbers and if games are going to be played and stuff. Northwestern is at 8 right now, but they're losing currently. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to finish. Like, you can't really put college kids in a bubble. Like, they're not professional athletes.
No, you absolutely can put college kids in the bubble.
I've heard multiple times that the NCAA is very, very reluctant to put college players in a bubble at this time.
That's really weird because basketball is having a bubble in Connecticut right now. College basketball is having a bubble in Connecticut.
Okay, but that's not all the teams. Like, I'm just saying, if the cases
it would only be the playoff teams.
No, I know. But if it even gets there, there are a lot of teams that won't even get there because of how many cases there are right now.
That's true.
They're not following regulations. They're getting screwed. Nick Saban just got it. So, obviously, if he doesn't follow it, the players won't. So it just shows you the leadership they have right now. They could get into a situation where they're screwed, where they're reluctant to put kids into a bubble.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can get to that point.
And let's finish Indiana off. Squeaks into the top 4.
Good luck.
We are that good.
Well,
we only lost to Ohio State by 7 last week. That's all I want to say.
Well, speaking of feel-good stories, Sarah Fuller became the first woman to play in college football as a kicker for 0-8 Vanderbilt. Evan, you saw that kick she had, the first kick off the game. The only kick they had all game because they haven't, they never got into their own territory.
They lost 41-0 to Missouri today. It was a great kick if you really look into it. She put it in a place where it was, like a low line drive that went to about the 35 that all the guy could do was just fall on it because they were going up, feel good story, for a team that absolutely needed it, in Vanderbilt being 0-7 going into today and then getting demolished.
Obviously, it wasn't much of a spark though.
Nah, with an SEC team like Vanderbilt, hasn't had a good season since Jay Cutler was their quarterback, believe it or not, in 2006. There's not much to do because the
best Bears quarterback ever.
Yeah. That's sad.
It's
sad. It's sad that he is the best Bears quarterback ever. But if you look at that, a team like that needed a good spark. That was a good spark. It was a fun story. As Vanderbilt got press and coverage today, which is a cool thing because they haven't gotten much of it this season after getting blown out week in and week out. They still got blown out today. But congratulations to Sarah Fuller for becoming the first woman to kick in a Power 5 football game. So really cool thing. Last thing we're going to talk about in some overtime topics, Dustin Johnson won the Masters 2 weeks ago.
It's been a while. Yeah. But huge win for DJ. He's one of the most calm and collected guys on the golf course that you will ever see. He's very hard to get rattled. He has been rattled once before in the 2016 US Open, which he should have 3 majors right now, but he has 2. Take it or leave it. Not many people ever get to win the Masters. Yeah, he has a green jacket. Which is very, very impressive. He played the best. He destroyed the course. Bryson had no chance there. Bryson had no chance. I said it was Bryson's tournament to lose, that was also before I heard him say that it was a par 67, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. You do not trash Augusta before you go play those sacred grounds. That course is literally its own being. It's its own entity. You don't trash it ever. So Bryson is the reason why he lost. DJ,
the golf gods did not want Bryson to do good today. They didn't want me to do good yesterday. They really didn't want Bryson to do good.
He lost the ball, like in the rough. He lost the ball. They 15 people looking there for 2 minutes. They couldn't find the ball. Augusta National ate his golf ball.
The golf gods were definitely not on his side that weekend. Well, who would ever criticize Augusta? It's a beautiful course. I want to play it one day. It's on my bucket list of golf.
It's on every golf. Yeah, every person in the world should have it on their bucket. Even if you don't play golf, that's like one of the most zen plays. It's like
Augusta. There's no way to describe it. You're just
these players, these pros who know they're going to play it, still are get caught up in the moment when they first step out there. They all every one of them says it's the best place. It's the best place. We'll see if we get to play it one day. Maybe.
Hope so, or hopefully we'll get to cover it one day. Who knows? But that's going to do it for our show this week. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week. For Bryce Gelman, I'm Evan Kamiko. Have a great week.